Today on the Daily Review, we discuss The Wailing by, what's his name? I'll let you know in a second. After the intro. Oh yeah, it's Hong-jin. I need someone to explain to me how Korean names work. I don't understand which is the first name, which is the last name, but it's Hong-jin. He's a young guy too. He was born in '74, and this is a South Korean horror epic, I would call it, because it's 2 hours and 35 minutes. Although it's not epic in scale, but in scale in the terms of it's not like Lord of the Rings battlefields worth of people fighting, but thematically it is basically as grand as you can get. So I knew very little about this movie, just kind of obviously been, and I knew this already, but just been kind of watching more, as much Korean cinema as I possibly can from the past decade or two, as especially in the past 10 years, it seems like they are making the most exciting, atmospheric, and interesting stories too. They have the sense of humor is a dark sense of humor. There's there's always a kind of a peculiar sexual element, although not so much in this one. And then Tarantino level violence. It's all very interesting. I'm down. And they're masterful technicians as well, because we've already discussed that. There are other countries that kind of do a similar thing, but the technology doesn't seem to be there, or the aptitude for that technology, I should say. Maybe that's because it is cinema in a country becomes a snowballing effect if they get global. If they something that makes a lot of money, either regionally or internationally. Excuse me. Then more people are willing to invest, and the government's willing to put more money if it is a government subsidized thing. That happens all the time. And then it's for a little while that cinema becomes more popular, or is given a chance to flourish. And it seems that Korean cinema, maybe starting with Old Boy, somewhere around that time. Was that 2003? Maybe it's earlier than that, but something around there, and people are starting going, these guys make fucking sweet movies too. Yeah, and then it's I'm sorry, I'm just repeating myself. Anyway, what is interesting about this movie, you might ask? Because it starts off it's just kind of a slow burn movie, which most zombie movies are not a slow burn. In fact, most of them are 85 minutes, or certainly not over 2 hours, although Dawn of the Dead's actually pretty long, the original. But anyway, it starts out and it's just kind of this. It all takes place in this small Korean village, small town, modern day, and our main cop is just kind of timid and overweight and is always eating, and he gets drawn into stories. He's easily scared. He's basically everything you're not supposed to be as a hero and also as a police officer. He's just he screams basically when anything happens, and he doesn't have any authority, it seems like. Which will get us into something that this movie, if this movie could not be made in America, because there's so many guns in America, that every scene would just be I don't think the cops in Korea have guns, or didn't look like it in this movie, or I don't think a gun is shot, hardly ever in this movie. No, there are some gunshots, but it's not if someone came towards you and they were all we just know now from all the fucking videos we've seen, that if someone, and you said freeze and they kept coming towards you and lunged, you would tase them or pepper spray them or shoot them in the face, depending on their nationality, it seems like, in the United States. or just hug them, if they're a rich white person. Anyway, this sets up a really exciting story, kind of like the same way Jaws. The fact that we know that Roy Scheider's character is terrified of the water, like, kind of sets up the perfect framework for, like, okay, well, he's gonna have to confront his fears, And so the fact that our cop is, like, timid and shy and doesn't seem particularly powerful in any way, you're like, oh, okay, now he's gonna have to, like, come to terms with, like, the forces of evil or something like that, and it's gonna be funny to watch him because he's a scaredy cat, as they say. Yeah, I think that that's really smart, and they spend a lot of time developing those characters and developing, like, what's going on, just in terms of the lifestyle of all the characters and the fact that it's a small town, everybody knows everybody, and it starts out just like a murder mystery movie, which is really realistic, and I don't think I've ever seen a zombie movie start like this. Even the original, it just starts with a zombie attack, but in this it's as if we're investigating a murder. It's like, wow, it's a weird murder. And but not just like then 2 seconds later there isn't a zombie. It's like it's parsed out a little bit, and some things are like dreams or they're stories that somebody's telling to scare you. So the audience is kind of getting aware that it's a zombie movie, but the characters in the movie are still dealing with it like, oh, this is weird, and some of them have a rash. I wonder if that's, they're just like trying to piece it together, which most of this type of movie doesn't do, because that isn't, usually it's just like has a different goal. This genre is usually just like, let's make social commentary with zombies as like a good metaphor, and then let's just see how many sweet zombie kills we can get. Then you kind of start going, is this even a zombie movie? Or is it just like a regular murder? Or is it like a virus movie? Or is it like a vampire movie? At a point you're like, oh, maybe they're vampires. And then you're like, maybe it's voodoo. And then there is like voodoo types, like catch felice stuff. Or then you're like, oh, maybe it's possession. And then there's exorcisms. There's like shaman doing exorcisms and stuff. And then you're like, maybe this is like a Satan flick. Or like Satan and angels and demons kind of thing. And you never really kind of know until the end. And I won't spoil, but it's like every genre of horror movie. It's like that. It's like the non-sarcastic version of Cabin in the Woods in some senses, where there is like legitimately all these elements, and it's not a joke, and a lot of it is playing off folklore and stories and why they're even horror stories. It's really good. So at one point, one of the people who early on is like a suspect, but they can't talk to him because he's kind of in a coma or whatever and he's covered in all these blisters and stuff, and he's in the hospital, and the cop goes to see him, and he's all like having a seizure, and he's hanging off the side of the bed going, and you feel like there's pressure building up in him. You can see the veins in his neck, and you hear this kind of sound, and you're like, oh my god. And the cop's just in the doorway going, oh. And then the dude in the fucking best special effect, this movie is awesome. It's going to come to an important point there. Awesome special effect. His eye goes and it just like ruptures, and blood comes pouring, and like goo and fucking oh my god, it was disgusting. This movie's PG-13. Seriously, isn't that fucking crazy? Yeah, it's great. And it makes you go, oh no, it's a virusy thing, and this is a bad way to go. Now, the movie only cost $8 million for a 2.5-hour movie. That the only special effects that look crap is that they're not even that bad. There's some, like, they had to do CGI ravens, and the way that their wings move is wrong. They fucked up. Or it's like the wrong shutter speed, or there's not enough motion blur, and that looks a little bit unrealistic. Other than that, everything looks perfect. It's all because it's a lot of practical stuff, a lot of makeup. So yeah, I mean, hats off to them for that, because an $8 million movie in America would be like about a guy who like occasionally feeds a pigeon, and it all takes place in his bedroom, and it's terrible. It wouldn't be like this sprawling movie about good versus evil, probably, although it has been done. This movie in America would have cost $100 million, I'd say. 80 to $100 million. They probably would have spent 150 in actuality, and it probably would have flopped because there wouldn't have been anything new about it. Now, what is new about this is that there's some good stuff. Just like The Handmaiden, there's like this xenophobia, anti-Japanese thing going on by Koreans, which, as I've learned more, the Japanese just like took Korea at a certain point and colonized, and then they fought. And then now there's like a kind of a, contentious relationship that still exists to a certain degree. Who knows how deep it goes, if it's more of just a rivalry now, or if it's like about to kick off, as they say, which I don't think it's like that anymore. So the main suspect is a Japanese guy who recently moved to the village, and so then it becomes this xenophobic thing about outsiders. But ultimately, it's not about, that's kind of like a red herring, I'm not spoiling anything, just so you know, by saying this when I say that, And so what a red herring is, so maybe you guys don't know, and I sometimes use filmy terms that you haven't heard, or you don't know what they mean. A red herring is a plot device that is like a misdirection. That's basically it. And it's usually in a mystery. It's the character where you're like, oh, it's definitely that guy. It's definitely the postman. He fucking licked his chops right after the thing, and we know that the murderer likes lipstick, and there's always licking. I don't know, likes lip gloss. I don't know. Anyway, so there's some of the amazing scenes. There's like a voodoo-esque exorcism that's like amazing. It's basically like these two shamans like psychically battling, but it's done through dancing and film editing. It's amazing. We get an hour and 45 minutes into the movie before there is what you would consider like the classic zombie attack. Like the classic, like you beat up a guy and you knock him down and you hit him, and then like the thing goes through him and he just keeps getting up, like that kind of thing. That happens at hour and 45 minutes, and it made me realize, I'm like, maybe the Wailing has a couple of meanings. Wailing, like it's obviously like crying out in pain, but also just like wailing on somebody, because they're just like going to Shaun of the Dead on this guy, and they hit him right in the head with a rake, like a hard metal rake, and it goes in, and then he breaks the thing and pulls it out, and it looks great. Special effects are awesome, a lot of makeup, so very cool, very, very, very cool. But then the movie kind of like evolves and becomes about something else, sort of, or unfolds, as we've been talking about. That's what these Korean films have been doing. I'm sure not all Korean films do this, but the good ones, they slowly unfold and blossom, right, as a film is supposed to. And maybe it's just because they're foreign to me, but they don't have the same tropes, as American films. Like, they set you up maybe for one thing, and then they just kind of go about it their own way, and some of that is cultural, and some of that is like them intentionally defying it. But I don't know, this guy is pretty interesting, and the movie can be taken as something political, I guess you could say, or as something bigger, just about the nature of humanity, which is always cool, and that's always what you're going for with your horror movie. I mean, I'm not really sure. I can't think of many horror movies that are just pure, like, this thing kills, and there's no subtext to it. Maybe Halloween, or Texas Chainsaw Massacre to a certain degree, that there's no, like, metaphor in that movie, in Texas Chainsaw. It's just like, some people are fucking fucked up, like, there have been crimes in America that are as fucked up as what you're about to see in this movie, like that kind of thing. So it's not impossible. Or in Blair Witch, there's not necessarily like some other social commentary going on, but certainly, specifically, zombie movies seem to do that a lot, because it's just so ripe for representing a group. But the question is this a zombie movie? It's really, really, really hard question. I would say kind of. I would say it's a Satan flick, which I just made up. Let me see what I think the Korean title is just the name of the town, which is Gokseong. Gokseong. God, you want me to try and read the names of the people who made this movie and the actors? Because it's just embarrassing, my inability to read anything besides, like, Tony Frankie or whatever. Okay, so the movie stars. Here we go. Let me try it. Kwak Do Wong. He's awesome. He's like the main guy. Do Won, probably. Wang Hong-min. Who is that guy? Oh, yeah. He's the... wow, he's one of the highest grossing actors in South Korea history. He was a shaman, one of the shaman. Chun Woo Hee. Yeah, she's good. She was kind of another female character, obviously. Let me see if there's anything. There was a hit, like a deleted ending that I thank God they got rid of. It sucked. Anyway, this movie has a 99 on Rotten Tomatoes. That's why it always stood out to me. I was like, fuck, I gotta check that movie out. And the cover was always like so super ominous, you know. I just like it. I like the way that the Korean filmmakers do color correction. I like their post-production. I think that that's maybe where their most powerful tool is their post-production. Especially watch some behind the scenes about how they made Parasite. And if you've ever made a film before, you're like, oh my God, yeah, that's the way we should always have done it. And then you remember, oh yeah, we didn't always have super fast computers. Or anyway, I've been realizing that, like, I genuinely recommend things on this site, which has been weird because I'm a kind of negative asshole who's very judgmental. So maybe it's just that, or maybe more recently, I've just been picking stuff that I want to talk about or think it's interesting, and I don't want to just hate on something. But remember the rhythm section? Because I don't. Speaking of the rhythm section, I want to keep working on yesterday's song. I still haven't figured out how to hear the effects in my headphones, so this is, when it goes out, it's sounding a little bit different than what I'm doing now, which is like kind of a problem. So I could just, what I did there was check in the room audio. Maybe I can go out from the speakers. I'll think about it. Getting better all the time, guys. That's the point.
Bye.